Hey guys, my name is Retard. I'm in Diamond 3, and this is going to be my Riven runes and builds guides for preseason 10. Okay, so here I am with the runes, and as we know for preseason 10, Conqueror actually received a huge nerf. They removed the true damage on it, but as Riven, you still want to get it because she does that sustained damage. As Riven, she can stack up Conqueror really fast with her combos. So you always want to take Conqueror in the top lane, and then you go Triumph. And as for the legend runes, you want to, it's basically up to you. So you go Alacrity if you need the attack speed, but if they have CC, I would go Tenacity. And if I was against like a split pusher, like a late game split pusher, I would go Bloodline for the wave clear, or if I were split pushing, because this is better for the late game. Now for the final rune, this one's also up to you. So coup de grace is, if I were against a squishy champion, I would take this. Or if I was against a team with a lot of tanks, cut down is not bad. And for last stand, it's very situational, but personally, if I'm against someone with a lot of damage reduction like Aurelia or Fiora, I would take this because it'll help you get the edge. And as for secondary runes, I like to go Inspiration. If you don't know what to get, I would go Magical Footwear because this helps you save gold on boots. And as Riven, you want to be putting as much gold into your damage builds as much as possible. For Resolve, I would go Shield Bash almost all the time because Riven has a shield and it allows you to do more damage. If you're against like poke, like GP or a Quinn, who will always poke you a lot, Second Wind plus Doran's shield, it will help you out during the laning phase. Or if you're against a bruiser, I would go Bone Plating. A bruiser that, let's say you would go Ninja Tabbies against, since you would go Magical Footwear. If you're against a bruiser, you want to build Ninja Tabbies first item, I would go Shield Bash plus Bone Plating. It'll allow you to rush the Ninja Tabbies. For sorcery, I would go Transcendence always, because that's really useful. And you have a lot of choices here. So Nimbus Cloak, if you didn't know, the new Nimbus Cloak gives you increased movement speed after you use a summoner spell, which I see is really useful. You're against, if you wanted to kite someone like a Jax, or if you were going to TP in to like the bot lane and you wanted to get like a really good flank, you get the extra movement speed from Nimbus Cloak. And then, or you could go Scorch, which if you're against like a Garen maybe, for the extra poke. If I was against a Jax, maybe I would go Nimbus Cloak, Transcendence, or Transcendence, Gathering Storm. It's really up to you. For Domination, you also have a lot of options here. So Taste of Blood, maybe if you wanted to go Ravenous Hunter for a full lifesteal build maybe. Or you could even go Sudden Impact since Riven has many dashes. This gives you a lot of lethality. You want to get Ultimate Hunter most of the time if you're going into the Domination tree, because this gives you ultimate cooldown reduction. And basically, Riven always wants to be using her ultimate. So this one is if you're super aggressive and you're really confident that you're going to win your matchup. For Rune Shards, you could go Adaptive first, or you could go Scaling cooldown reduction if you're going to be focused on scaling rather than laning phase. This one is always going to be adaptive since you're not going to be using the armor or magic resist. And for the last one, you could choose armor or magic resist depending on the matchup. So another keystone you could pick up would be Electrocute. And if you want to go for like a full burst like assassin type, I would go Sudden Impact, Eyeball Collection, Ultimate Hunter. And then you could go Sorcery into Transcendence and Scorch if you're going for like a full aggressive, full damage build. Okay, so the reason you want to get Transcendence is because you get that extra damage once you reach the CDR limit. So if, let's say you were going a full lethality build like Ghostblade or Duskblade, this gives you so much damage. So here is a rune page I would build if I were going full defensive. If you were against someone that is really hard, like a really hard matchup, I would go Aftershock for that extra armor and magic resist, and she can proc Aftershock very easily. So you want to go Shield Bash, Bone Plating, and then Revitalize to get that extra shield. Another rune I would consider is maybe if you're playing Riven jungle, for my jungle Riven players out there, I would go Fleet Footwork for that extra sustain against the jungle camps. And then you just go Triumph, Alacrity, because you want the Alacrity for jungle clearing, and then whichever one you want from here. And then for the jungle, I would go Sorcery, Transcendence, and to Water Walking for that extra movement speed, and it gives you more damage in the river. And for the rune shards, I would actually get attack speed for that extra wave clear. So this one is like a situational build right here if you wanted to go Riven jungle. Okay, so another rune I would probably consider in certain situations is Phase Rush. Specifically if I were against a Tryndamere or Nasus who has a slow, Phase Rush gives you the slow resistance if you do like a short trade, with Nimbus Cloak, Transcendence for the scaling, and then Scorch. This one I wouldn't go often, but if you're against those certain matchups, I would take that. Okay, so here I am with the items, and for the starting items, most of the time I would get Doran's Blade. And Box also does this because the Doran's Blade is just so much more useful than all the other items that you can get because of that extra health that you use for fighting bruisers. The next one I have is Doran's Shield. If you're against a matchup that you struggle in, like let's say you're against a Quinn who pokes you a lot, or a Gangplank, Doran's Shield will help you sustain into the mid game. Okay, next up I have a more aggressive starting item for lane phase. You could either go Longsword 3 pots or a Longsword refillable potion, because for Longsword it helps you build faster into your items, and for the potions you can choose whichever one you want. If you feel like you're going to be trading quite often, I would go refillable, or if you feel like you're going to snowball very hard in the early game, you go 3 health potions, because it helps you with those first 3 levels that you need. Okay, so an overall build would look like this. So you have Black Cleaver, Death Dance, and Last Whisper. So this is going to be like the items that you always want to get. Last Whisper, because of the Conqueror nerfs that we received, you don't have that much armor penetration against tanks, so you want to get Last Whisper as a core item pretty much all the time. The next items you want to consider are maybe Sterix Gauge or Maw Malmortius. If you were against a lot of AP, you would take this, or if you have a healer on your team, I'd probably go Spirit Visage. And for Sterix Gauge, you always want to get this, in my opinion, because if you're against like another bruiser, this helps you out a lot. Or if you're against an assassin, I would consider GA. So if you're against sustained damage, I would go Gauge. If you're against burst damage, one shot like Talon, I would go GA. The next item you can get during the laning phase is Tiamat. If you're against a tank, or maybe a Shen or a Singe who has a lot of wave clear, you want to get this to push in your lane all the time. So you could do things like roam or take tower plates and harass. This one is going to be really useful if you're an aggressive laner. And for boots, I have here Ninja Tabbies, Merc Treads, and Lucidity boots. So usually you want to get either Ninja Tabbies or Merc Treads. I would go Lucidity boots if I were going for straight damage, or if I were really ahead. The CDR is really useful on Riven, and also gives you CDR on your flash and teleport, which is really good. So here's an example of a full burst build, like an assassin type build that you would go. So I have Ghost Blade, Dusk Blade for the lethality, and also these items give cooldown reduction, as well as Black Cleaver with Last Whisper, because you always want to get Last Whisper, and then Lucidity boots. The reason for this is because you're going to be over capping on CDR. So if you go the Electrocute build with Transcendence, you're going to have a lot of attack damage because you're over capping on CDR. You want to get Guardian Angel because you're going to be so squishy if you go for this build. So this is like if you're far ahead and you're against a lot of squishies type of build. So if you were really behind in the laning phase, I would take some of these items I have right here. So these are all tank items, and it's okay for Riven to build tank because she has so much CC in her kit. She will be useful either way. So some items I want to point out is Stone Plate, because Stone Plate is really good for that 5-man engage. It gives you more magic resistant armor the more enemies you have around you. And also Spirit Visage, you're against a lot of AP and you have a healer on your team. Okay, so that's gonna be it, guys. Let me know in the comments which playstyle you prefer. You like going the Burst the Assassin Electrocute build, or you want to go Conqueror with a sustained damage. Don't forget to subscribe if you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. Follow my Twitch channel on twitch.tv/retradlol, and I'll see you guys later.